A major case challenging the National Firearms Act and its restrictions on short-barreled rifles is now sitting before the United States Supreme Court. But what's really stirring controversy isn't just the case itself. It's the fact that the Trump Department of Justice is once again defending the NFA. Yes, you heard that right. The same DOJ that served under Trump is now asking the Supreme Court to reject this challenge altogether. Let's talk about what's actually happening in this critical case and why it matters so much right now. Before we continue, if you value detailed legal breakdowns that the mainstream media often skips, make sure you're subscribed. It helps the channel grow and lets me keep bringing you real updates that matter to every gun owner and American who cares about constitutional rights. Now, this case is called United States v. Robinson, a direct challenge to the NFA's short-barreled rifle restrictions. In this petition, Robinson is asking the Supreme Court to declare those restrictions unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. The case comes from the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which ruled earlier that the NFA does not violate the Second Amendment. Robinson has now taken that loss and appealed it to the highest court in the land. Recently, the Trump DOJ filed its response, and once again, it's defending the NFA, claiming it's perfectly constitutional and that it's also a lawful tax under the Constitution. This is now the second time in just a few weeks that the Trump DOJ has sided with the NFA and pushed the Supreme Court to avoid hearing these kinds of Second Amendment challenges. That's raising eyebrows for obvious reasons, especially among gun rights advocates who expected a different stance. So what exactly happened in this case? Back in 2022, law enforcement responded to a call about a suspicious vehicle parked in front of a home in Florida. When officers arrived, they found a man, Mr. Robinson, asleep inside his car. Through the window, they claimed they saw what looked like the buttstock of a rifle. They turned on their lights, woke him up, and when Robinson tried to drive away, he was stopped, arrested, and searched. Inside his car, officers found a short-barreled rifle and another rifle upper. Robinson was charged under the NFA for possessing an unregistered short-barreled rifle. After a bench trial, he was found guilty and sentenced to 18 months of probation and 6 months of house arrest. But Robinson didn't stop there. He appealed the conviction to the 11th Circuit, arguing that the law violated both the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment, claiming Congress had overstepped its powers by using taxation to regulate a constitutional right. The 11th Circuit rejected those arguments and upheld the conviction, which is what led Robinson to bring his case before the Supreme Court. In his petition, Robinson raises two big questions. Does punishing someone for possessing an unregistered short-barreled rifle violate the Second Amendment? And does this type of punishment exceed Congress's power to tax under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution? Initially, the government didn't even bother responding to Robinson's petition, but the Supreme Court ordered them to. And when they did, the Trump DOJ doubled down on defending the NFA. In their brief, they argued that there's no difference between short-barreled rifles and short-barreled shotguns, pointing to the old Miller case as precedent. According to them, Miller still controls, and therefore the NFA's restrictions remain valid. They also argued that short-barreled rifles aren't in common use for lawful purposes, claiming that they're mainly used by criminals, and therefore qualify as dangerous and unusual weapons that the government can regulate. On top of that, the DOJ defended the NFA as a legitimate tax, saying that America has a long history of taxing dangerous or unusual weapons, things like dueling pistols, sword canes, or Bowie knives. They claim that the NFA fits right in with those historical precedents. But Robinson fired back hard in his reply brief. He argues that the NFA violates both the Second Amendment and Congress's taxing powers. According to him, the Miller case actually supports his side, not the government's. Why? Because Miller recognized that the Second Amendment protects arms that are in common use. And today, SBRs, short-barreled rifles, are far more common than short-barreled shotguns were in Miller's time. In fact, he points out that SBR ownership has exploded among civilians since 2011, which makes them clearly in common use under modern standards. He also challenges the idea that the NFA's $200 tax is really a tax at all. He says it's a penalty, not a revenue tool, since it comes with fingerprinting, registration, ATF approval for travel, and even harsh criminal penalties for mistakes. He argues that if this were truly about collecting taxes, it would be handled by the IRS, not enforced by armed DOJ agents. His point? The NFA was designed to suppress conduct, not to raise money. Robinson closes his argument by urging the Supreme Court to grant review, strike down the NFA's SBR restrictions, and reaffirm that both the Second Amendment and the taxing clause mean what they say. This is now the second major NFA challenge before the Supreme Court, and the second time in a matter of weeks that the Trump DOJ has publicly supported the NFA's constitutionality. Once again, they're asking the court to deny review, which has frustrated a lot of gun rights supporters who expected a stronger defense of the Second Amendment. The case will now head to Supreme Court conference, where the justices will decide whether to take it up or reject it. Will they side with the Trump DOJ and pass on the case? Possibly. Many believe the court might want to deal with broader rifle ban cases before touching NFA issues. But there's also a chance the court takes this case because it touches both the Second Amendment and the federal taxing power, a combination that could reshape firearm regulation entirely. So now we wait. The ball is in the Supreme Court's court, and what they decide could impact not just this one case, but every gun owner in the country. As this develops, I'll keep you updated right here. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, share it with others who care about these issues, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next update. You can also check out the videos on your screen for more detailed coverage of similar cases. And as always, thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting the channel.